So the illusion of knowledge happens when we think we understand something better than we do. It's not the same thing as confidence. Confidence is sort of generally has to do with our skill, whereas knowledge is more specific. So classic examples of this are when investors make huge directional bets on markets, on stocks, commodity prices, things like that, based on the idea that they know what's going to happen in the future better than the rest of the world does, or at least better than the party on the other side of the transaction. There's always at least one party on the other side of the transaction who thinks the opposite of you, or probably does. But then also there's the notion that how good can your knowledge be? Can your knowledge be so good that you're going to commit millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, on that, And it's one thing to spread out your investments along a broad portfolio. That's kind of recognizing the limitations of your knowledge, right? You're not going to invest, too much in any one claim. But there have always been cases of, let's say, commodity traders who made massive bets that the price of oil was going to go up, or the price of oil was going to go down, or some currency was going to go up or down. And of course, we hear about all the ones who succeeded with that, like George Soros, who made billions of dollars doing this. But there are also stories of people who completely blew up and failed. And we don't, we don't really find out as much about those guys, except sometimes when they make the news. And that reflects sort of, I think, a mistaken belief that we actually understand the way the world works better than we really do. So some of the interesting research that's been done on the illusion of knowledge asks participants to express how much or how well they think they understand a simple physical system like a bicycle, let's say. So researcher in the UK asked participants, on a scale of 1 to 7, how well do you understand how a bicycle works? And then the surprise question was, she actually gave them a drawing of sort of the skeleton of a bicycle and asked them to fill in the rest of the parts. So for example, the wheels would be there and the frame, and they would have to draw in the chain and a couple of other parts, and how the handlebars connected to the front wheel or something like that. And what she found was that even among people who rated their knowledge of how bicycles work really highly, the bicycles they drew could not possibly work. So for example, the chain would connect the front wheel to the back wheel. And if you think about it for a second, if the chain in a bicycle connects the front wheel and the back wheel, every time you turn the front wheel, the chain is going to fall off, or your bicycle is going to fall over, one of the other two things. And some of these people even were people who rode a bike, to and from work or school every day. So they really looked at these things all the time. They used them. They did have some knowledge of them, but they rated their knowledge as deeper than it actually was. And there have been many other studies like this. People will say things like, they know why the sky is blue, but if you start asking probing questions, they basically stop after one answer. Their knowledge is not nearly as deep as they think it is. And this is fun in experiments when people sort of demonstrate that they draw impossible bicycles, but when it comes to important decisions made on the basis of one's knowledge, then it can be really dangerous. And I think this happens in business a lot, that in organizations kind of convince themselves at the organizational level or at the level of teams or groups within the organization that they understand the customer or the future, trends or success of products or whatever better than they actually do. I think we have this model based on companies like Apple, let's say, which sort of seems to release hit product after hit product, that it's possible to just sort of figure it all out, embody it in a product, and it works and so on. There's a lot more uncertainty than we realize, I think, and the idea that we know things better than we do is sort of a minimization of the uncertainty and the noise of the environment that we operate in. When we think about success, like the success of a company like Apple, let's say, or the success of a great investor or something like that, there are a number of cognitive biases that come into play. One is we sort of look at that company and we say, how did they become so successful? Well, if we started out with a universe of 10,000 companies, almost inevitably one of them was bound to be the biggest one, the most successful one, the most profitable one. There's got to be one, right? There's got to be a winner. So in a way, we're sort of retrospectively picking one and saying, how did they win, when we're under the illusion that we were picking them from the beginning, and sort of knowing that they were going to win or something like that.
So a lot of these books and articles on the great companies and what they've done to become great are really illusions of cause.
That's exactly right.